I'm Anita Huberman. I'm CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade. And this morning we are going to be focusing on technology. This Surrey Digital Town Hall series since the beginning of the pandemic has really created a venue for us to give you support for your business. I also want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Tawasin First Nations. And events like these simply would not happen without sponsorship. I'd like to thank the Port of Vancouver for the sponsorship of the whole Surrey Digital Town Hall series. And thank you so much to our frontline workers at the Port of Vancouver, our marine terminal workers, our marine pilots, our railroaders, our truck drivers, getting our goods to market locally, nationally, and internationally. And I'd also like to thank Shaw Business for their sponsorship of the event, and they'll speak shortly. I'd like to indicate that you can just put in any questions in the chat function of the Zoom technology. The session is being recorded. We have some set questions that we'll be asking our speakers, and then you'll have an opportunity to indicate your question through the chat function. Everyone, let's begin. So first, to introduce our panelists, we have Charles West II. He believes that risk is necessary if success is going to be your end game. He understands that you have to be a hardworking person in order to achieve your goals, and that is especially true in the COVID-19 economic climate that we're living in. Oftentimes, you have to take a leap of faith and trust that everything will work out. If not, then get up and do it all over again. I absolutely believe in that. Our second speaker is Pascal Rollman, also with Shaw. Pascal is a leader who balances an in-depth understanding of technology and its application benefits with a commitment to continually researching and assimilating new technical information. Ladies and gentlemen, he is adept in identifying end user needs and emerging market trends, as well as working closely with product managers to create enhanced product lines to improve your bottom line productivity. So let's begin with some questions to both speakers, and they can choose which questions they want to respond to, and then we'll go to your questions. Remember, it's all about utilizing technology and how any business of any size can really benefit from new ways of thinking. So question number one to our speakers. As we head back to work, we started to head back to work for many of us, and more to come in the coming months. Willie, what do you think businesses should be thinking about when it comes to their digital strategy?
Well, maybe I can kick us off here. First of all, thank you, Anita, for that lovely introduction, and thank you everyone for joining the call today. Really appreciate it. I think when you start to think about digital strategy, the way we thought about digital strategy has probably changed significantly over the last 3 months. I think we all had an idea of what our digital strategy was going into it, probably in its simplest form, using functionalities like operating systems or Microsoft Excel or Word. I think that's changed since the pandemic hit us. I think what's really important is you really got to start to focus in on, what does your business look like going forward? What problems do you want to tackle firsthand? And I think my first advice to anybody that's is slowly starting to go back to business is focus in on one problem at a time. Do the best that you can with that problem before you move on. But digital strategies really needs to stay focused about communication, understanding your people, understanding what your clients' needs are today as opposed to what your needs were, yesterday, for lack of a better term. And then making sure that, you know, what your digital footprint, what your identity was as an organization from a few months ago, you know, you can grow and foster from that and build a foundation that's ultimately scalable so that you can get better and be flexible. It's really important to be flexible, listen and be aware of what's going on in the industry today, because it's going to evolve, you know, on a daily basis. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, and I think you know, Pascal said a lot right there, but I think our general theme throughout this whole town hall call today is going to be communication. You know, we are a communications company. I think it's very important for businesses to keep that communication with not only their existing customers, but their new customers too. So we work with a lot of businesses across BC and the country, and it's very important for us to be connected and know what's going on in their lives so that we can continue to keep that relationship going.
A question to you that I'm really interested in is what should companies and organizations be thinking about for the future of their businesses and their employees?
I think we live in a world now where efficiency should be top of mind. We have to figure out how we can get the most out of anything with with the less. So and sometimes that comes with adapting to new technologies. Technologies tends to make our lives easier. So I think we have to think before thinking and future proof ourselves so that when things change, that we're adaptable to it.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add a little bit to that. I think the word contingency is definitely something that comes to mind, and it can be used as a platform in business, but also for staff. So as a business owner, you know, you know, just to add to what Charles said, you have to be adaptable to what the future holds. Nobody knows what the future holds. We can predict it based on patterns, based on historical data, but there are some things that we just don't see coming. So I think having those backup plans for your business to ensure data connectivity is always up and running, to ensure communications to your clientele is always up and running, to understand how you can adapt in a world of business, whether it's retail, professional services, you know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but as long as you have those backup plans, when something happens that you can't predict, you're prepared for it. So some people call it disaster recovery, some people call it contingency plans. You know, I call it being prepared. You don't need to build a bunker, you know, at your house to protect yourself, but what you can do is build, you know, services and solutions around your overall business that will protect you in the event of anything that may happen and prepare you for those changes as they come. Similar to what we just saw with the pandemic, everybody shifted to working from home, and we've learned from that now, and what we've learned from that gives us an ability to be better prepared for something like that in the future.
You know, when the pandemic hit, I was really surprised that some businesses did not have a digital strategy, or they didn't have a website, or they didn't have a means by which to work digitally. And many small businesses, micro businesses, at times, they don't think a digital strategy is for them. It's more for the medium, larger businesses. Tell me what your perspective is, especially as we're heading into the future, up until 2050. You know, how can an effective digital strategy help save business expenses and bottom line productivity?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit on this because, you know, I went through this firsthand throughout this pandemic, and there were a lot of businesses that I wanted to spend my money at, but I couldn't because they didn't have solutions in place where they could communicate with the customers. So I think, you know, as things begin to ramp back up, I think it's very important that businesses utilize every communication possible, social media, because you know, we have to get outside of a world where our only form of communication is the telephone, right? We have to do email, we have to do social media, we have to work, you know, maybe route calls to our cell phones. We have to have all these solutions in place so that no matter what happens, our clients and our customers will still be able to reach us. And I think a lot of the larger companies are doing that, I believe a lot of the restaurants are doing that now because they're kind of forced to, but there's different solutions in place now where, customers can be on wait lists. When they're going to a store, they can just text their number and they can wait in line versus getting there and waiting for an hour, 2 hours. They can have allocated slots. So it's just being forward thinking and using technology and everything to enhance our efficiency.
It's good. I'll just add maybe one quick thing to it. I'll throw a term out there for you. I call it digital flexibility. So when you look at digital strategy, some organizations don't even know that they need to have a digital strategy. Some of them may think they don't, but they actually do. When I talk about digital flexibility, it's about the true understanding of what is the versatility of your organization need to be at in the event, for a variety of different things, whether it's a growth strategy. Well, digital flexibility is part of growth. Digital flexibility can be part of contingency. There's a variety of different things. So as a business owners, you want to take a look at your organization, at your staff, at your people, understand the culture within your clientele and your staff, and ask yourself, what do I need to be flexible with? What does that strategy look like? And we're not asking, people to do it on their own. That's what we're here for. We specialize as consultants to really truly help you understand what you need, because to Charles's point, there are some companies that we discovered in the beginning of this pandemic that thought they needed certain things and they didn't. And they were willing to spend a tremendous amount of money for no reasons. And, we were able to say to them, that's not your strategy. That's not your flexibility. You need to, look at a service like this because this is the solution. And that's what we're trying to do, is educate as many organizations in commercial businesses as we can, to let them know that, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let us help you, in understanding what you really need for a digital strategy going forward.
The pandemic has really caused a lot of anxiety. There's been changing announcements by government every single day, uncertainty about the future of not only their business, but also for their staff. I'd like to get your perspective, from your experience. How can a business thrive under consistent change, which I know is still and will continue to be a reality?
Well, we have a term in the business world, or the telecom world, and maybe it's business world in general, where the only thing constant is change. So we have to live in a mindset where change is always going to happen. I think the most important thing to do is to be proactive. Because things can happen. We have to be proactive and do proactive research on what's available, so that no matter what happens, we have a contingency plan in place. When I say that, I think, and oftentimes businesses are presented with solutions, and we don't choose those solutions because we don't see the immediate threat. But we have to live in a world where we start to have plans in place where if something happens, we already have a backup solution in place. So, Shaw is, like, on our business team, we've done that by already outfitting all of our salespeople with Microsoft services, just in case they're not able to work from the office, they can also work from home. So when the pandemic happened, we were very well set up because our team are already set up to work remotely. I think we all have to live in a world now where we have those plans in place where our business can operate, even if we're not able to be physically there.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that and just say that, to Charles's point about change, the best thing that organizations can do when change happens is listen. Listen to your customers and listen to your staff. And business owners can truly understand what change is beginning to look like through the voices of their customers and through the voices of their staff. Keep them safe, keep them comfortable, make sure they're aware that you're still there to support them. And the more you listen, I think the more you're going to learn. And, just to use a proverbial saying, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? So, always make a point of listening when you can, because lots of information will come from your staff and from your customers, and that's going to help you prepare for the future.
Absolutely. And Shaw is really considered a technology leader, and thank you so much for being a member of Surrey City Building Business Organization. I'm quite intrigued as to how Shaw in the technology industry is helping businesses, helping workplaces during this time?
Mm. Sure. So I can jump at that. I mean, nothing short of, making this a sales pitch. There's the one thing I will say about Shaw is we truly, and I'm going to go back to a statement I made earlier, right? Is in the world of, digital strategy, telecommunications, it's about truly understanding what your landscape looks like, what your environment looks like. You have to build a foundation in order, and that's scalable, so that as you build these baby steps, you eventually get to the greatness level that you're trying to achieve. So what Shaw's done is we've listened, we've understood, and then now what we're doing is we're matching, our platform for what the needs of our customers are. Whether it's data connectivity and making sure that customers have, as much upload, as much download as they need to be able to service the industry. Well, we've made sure our network has been, properly maintained and upgraded. And we want to say that, throughout this entire pandemic, we never had a single disruption, on our network. It was very stable, very solid. All of our customers experienced no disruption, and everybody ended up, working from home. So even that in itself was a big change. You have 400 people sitting in an office tower in Surrey. Now all of a sudden you got 400 people sitting individually in their basements and their home offices. That changes. The data connectivity changes. They have to be able to still do the same job, at home, and be able to upload on a network, whether it's through a VPN tunnel, whether it's through a secure network connection. That's how Shaw's adapted, is making sure that those working from home people are still connected to the main head office to ensure that connectivity and the data, remains integral throughout the whole process.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that a little bit, it's a continuous thing. Like, we have solutions that we're rolling out this month. We can't speak on it yet. That is going to allow people working from home to be even more efficient. So, it's an ongoing thing where our product team and our sales team is always working together to figure out what's the best solutions for the environment. So, obviously at the beginning of this year, we had one path where we want to go, and one group of solutions we want to sell. However, when this happened, we had to pivot a little bit and focus more on work from home solutions. So that's what we're doing.
Mm.
Thank you. I just, I'm not a tech person. That's not my background. I rely on my team to help support me in that. But, we as a business organization want to be there to support our businesses in terms of their digital infrastructure needs. And it's so difficult to navigate through all of the different options. But I just want you to explain to the audience that are on this call, what services, what technology are required to make different businesses work. And I'm sure it's different for every single business.
Yeah, I don't know if we both could probably have a lot of stuff to say here. I think, we are in sales, and unfortunately, and we are a communications company, but unfortunately that can be a little bit of an area that we can improve on, because we have so many things that we have that can help businesses, but we're not able to communicate that to the masses. So with our sales team, we don't refer to them as salespeople, because we don't try to sell things. We try to have meetings and consult with people to figure out what's the best solution for the actual business. So there's not one blanket solution that works for every business. However, when our consultants meet with the different businesses, they finish every meeting with a different solution, depending on what type of vertical, what type of industry the business is in.
Yeah, I mean, trusted advisors, right? First thing that comes to mind, right? So, our sales team are a group of trusted advisors and consultants. It's a great question, Anita. It really is. But the best answer is, what is your job? What is your job of your company? What is your goal of your company? Truly understanding, that foundation, that matrix, the engine that's driving your business helps us, customize and tailor-made the solutions that Shaw has. A customer that is dealing in the world of retail is going to need different services than a law firm. Some of them might overlap, but very, very different. An organization that's dealing in the world of animation or software development and has a lot of data that's constantly needing to be uploaded and source code needing to be uploaded to the main research facility that they're doing, gonna need a different product than a retail organization is. So, I think the easiest way to answer your question is, Shaw's entire organization, we've invested a lot of money in this trusted advisor program, making sure that consultative sales approach is coming from an understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do with your organization, and tailor fitting services for your company. That will be done through one-off conversations that we can have. And as I started at the beginning of this meeting, you're never going to see us sell you something you don't need. We're going to recommend a solution that helps businesses grow. And that, I think, when you ask the question, what is required to make my business work? Once we do that discovery and that foundational meeting, it really helps cater a solution to the organization that we're talking to.
In addition to making your business work, especially as we're all returning back to work, we're eager to make money, bottom line productivity. Tell me about how a business should determine what technology will work for them in terms of bottom line profitability.
Well, I'm going to jump in on this one because I can talk about a real life scenario that actually just went through. Both of us went through it actually, and I'm going to have to leave the customer name out of it. But Charles and I have a very large multi-location customer, and recently, just a couple of days ago, we got a phone call that the internet service had gone down at their location, and right away, we were able to fix the problem, which was great. But unfortunately, what we had discovered is that there had been an upgrade that had taken place, and unfortunately, it created some noise that needed adjusting. But what it did for Charles and I is we immediately thought to ourselves, what if we had have given them a contingency plan? What if they had a backup solution? So you've got an internet product, but what if you had an LTE backup? That internet situation that ultimately dropped their POS connection, that LTE backup would have kicked in from a cellular standpoint. What we learned from that, and that's why I'm answering the question with the story, is because that makes businesses profitable. Contingency plans make businesses profitable because saving money is like making money. And if there's no money, and if you're losing money, you're not profitable. So this goes to almost the whole storyline of all the questions we've been asking, whether it's the digital strategy, whether it's the foundation of what you're trying to do as an organization, whether it's contingency plan, the right products, the right services. This is a great example of understanding this is a retail environment, and if your internet point of sale connection goes down, you lose revenue. And unfortunately, there are acts of gods and situation that will arise that we can't prevent. However, if you're able to know and understand the contingency plan for pennies on the day, that guarantees and protects your service connectivity. So that's a great question, Anita, and thank you for asking it, because it's a great example of how our profession of consultants will sit down and understand your business and recommend the right solution for you.
Yeah, and it's a saying my dad used to say, a penny saved is a penny earned, right? So we have a lot of solutions now that, back in the old days, a lot of businesses used to have so many third-party companies that they'll spend money with to fix solutions. Now, we're kind of like the one-stop shop where if you go with a solution with us, we take care of it, you don't have to pay someone else. So we're trying to cut down expenses so that you can take that back and directly affect your bottom line.
Charles and Pascal, we at the Surrey Board of Trade have been advocating to government to really enhance broadband infrastructure in both urban and rural communities, not only in British Columbia, but throughout our nation. And when we had the pandemic, of course, more people, as you said, were working from home, they were working remotely, infrastructure related to connectivity was challenged. How can Shaw be a leader in terms of ensuring that even the future of a remote-based work environment is conducive to connecting with colleagues, with customers, stakeholders?
Mm.
Yeah, I'll chime in a little bit here and let Pascal take this one home. I'll give him a little assist right here. So, Shaw's always investing in our infrastructure, and this BC area is an area that, is our #1 priority to invest in our infrastructure. Um, it's an ongoing thing because obviously we want to make sure that everyone has connectivity and great connectivity. And we actually just got the green light today that we're able to service a particular area that's going to help the local residents and businesses in that area out a lot. And I'll let Pascal talk a little bit about that. But it's a continuous thing. It kind of goes with adaptability. We're changing, we're moving, we're growing as the day goes on.
Yeah, again, I can't get into specifics about it, but I can talk about it from a higher level. So to answer the question, as a multi-billion-dollar organization, Shaw is constantly looking at ways for how we can increase our footprint. Increasing our footprint, our identity, can be done in many different ways. It's through capital investment in our fiber and coax plants. It's through brand recognition and continuously building up the Shaw brand, who we are, what we stand for, the Shaw core values, what the organization stands for, the people stands for, the Shaw family. I mean, there's a variety of different things I think that Shaw's constantly doing. I think what we do really well is we listen. And I think, we all tripped over ourselves a little bit when the pandemic hit. And when I say tripped over ourselves, it kind of hit us all by surprise. And when I say all of us, I mean the entire world. But what Shaw really did, and I really tip my hat to the leadership team, they really came together and understood what needed to be done and how quickly. They took care of their people first. It's kind of like, when you're on an airplane and they say, put the mask on yourself first before you put the mask on your child. I've never understood that concept because as a parent, I'm always going to want to put the mask on my daughter. But it's a great analogy when you look at it from the pandemic standpoint. We had to put the mask on ourselves to make sure we knew what was going on. And then now we're putting the masks on all of our customers to help them out. So it's really flexibility. And for us, it was about understanding what work from home looks like. What does that look like going forward? How has it changed you as an organization? And then specifying it to each specific, customers. Again, it can be summed up as trusted advisors and consultants. As leaders, we were trained by our leaders. And then as leaders, we trained our team. And then the team went out and trained the customers. And it's an ongoing thing and it'll never end. It's an evolutionary change that it doesn't matter what changes. And to Charles's earlier comment, change is the one constant that happens all the time. Well, we have to be adaptable. We have to be flexible. We have to be collaborative. And how ironic that, these are words that are all part of Shaw's, core values. So, Shaw did a really, really good job in understanding that and adapting. And I think that's what we're going to continue to do forward.
Every couple of weeks, I have a meeting with the Premier, supporting ministers as part of the Premier's Economic Recovery Task Force to identify gaps and opportunities for businesses. The same is done with our Surrey Economic Recovery Coalition, where we're meeting locally with our local government, and we have a direct line into the Prime Minister's office for the same function. I'm curious to know from your perspective what you think our Surrey Board of Trade membership, business organizations should be thinking about as they're returning back to work, they're reopening their offices. What should they be focusing on based upon your background?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there are three things. I think communication is the #1 priority, making sure that one, you're able to communicate your objectives to your business, to your customers. The second one is have a disaster recovery plan in place. If you're not able to physically go to that business, how are you going to still operate that business remotely? That's #2. And #3, just security from a network point of view and security from a physical point of view. You know, a couple of weeks ago, well, pandemic has been the biggest issue throughout the last 3 or 4 months, and just 2 weeks, 2 weeks now, civil unrest is the big thing, right? So I think it's important for us, like it's changing every day and every week. 2020 has been a crazy year, and a crazy year full of changes, both on the personal side and the business side. So I think security now would be the forefront of the priority because of everything that's going on.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is I'll go back to a comment I made earlier is try to identify, sit with your leadership team, have the discussion, what do you think our priorities should be, and then tackle them one at a time, as opposed to dividing and conquering three different priorities. My suggestion would be make sure you have that seamless level of communication. Make sure you know what your disaster recovery plan is. Make sure you plan for future security intrusions in and out, but do it all once. Become an expert at it, launch it, and then move on to the next one. But really, it's about sitting down and understanding what your top three priorities are. And from a communications company standpoint, that's what we're here to help you for as well. So anybody ever want to have a conversation with us about it, we're more than happy to give you our consultative opinions on what you think you should do, just based on the industry you come from, because we've been selling into these industries forever. So we know what the priorities are, but yours might be a little bit customizable to yourself. So, engage us in a conversation and we can see where those conversations can go.
And to the audience, a reminder to type your questions in the chat function, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. One of my next questions is related to customers, how we're serving them. The in-person experience as we're returning back to work is going to be very different. Can you speak about how we should be adapting to serving our customers from a technology perspective?
I'll jump in. Yeah, this is one that hits home for me because I used to work, now I'm on the business side in telecom, but I used to work at a place called Radio Shack, and this is a store where I was very customer facing. Right now, I'm not as customer facing as I used to be, but I think one of the main priorities was keep the customer first, right? And it was a thing that we all used to say, but now it's so important because a lot of customers come to our business with a lot of heavy hearts and a lot of things on their mind. And one thing that I've noticed for every business that I went through the last couple of months, the customer service has been excellent. It's been more of a personal thing because the business owners know what everyone's going through and they appreciate every customer that's still risking their lives to come and shop with their business. So that's what I would say would be the number one priority is being mindful of what everyone is going to.
Yeah, I'll just add one quick thing. Listen, right? I mean, there's a saying in the real estate, location. In our industry, it's listen. You have to become, when you're facing adaptability, there are specific industries, and the gaming industry is a perfect example where the gaming industry is such a huge up and coming marketplace where people go to a massive social gathering in a massive arena and they go head to head and, they play Fortnite and NHL hockey and NBA. Well, they can't do that anymore. So how are you as a business going to adapt and change? And some of the things that we're noticing with some of these customers, which are customers of ours, they've changed their focus to online. So where everything was socially focused in a face-to-face environment, it's now become socially focused, it's still the same premise, but online. So now your mediums are, instead of doing being TV face-to-face where there are camera crews there, it's all done online and then fed through a company like Twitch or something like that. So when you talk about adaptability, that's an example of listen. What are your customers telling you? What are they asking for? What do they need? What is your staff concerned about? What are they asking you? What do they need? And then as a business owner, adapt and adjust and change while making sure you're still profitable so you're making money, right?
Mhm. How is Shaw preparing itself as a business if there is a strong second wave of the virus this fall?
Yeah, I could jump in on that one. So I think you know, when you define strong, it's scary to think of what could be stronger than what's already happened. But, you know, I go back to what we did, you know, in the beginning. So we can prepare for what we know, but we can adapt for what we don't know. So I'll take the question in two parts. So the first part is we know how we've prepared ourselves already for this because it just happened. So we've made sure that our network was as stable as possible. We've made sure that we understood that there was going to be more connectivity for home-based users coming through our network, individuals. We've adapted by creating um, new programs that become flexible and financially acceptable for people as they shift from businesses to home. So what Shaw's doing is we've learned from our leaders what, you know, has happened during this, you know, during round one of the pandemic. And I think everybody, most people are aware that it probably will happen again. To what degree, you know, I don't think, you know, no one really knows. But we are ready now if it happens again, because we've learned from the first standpoint that if you need to change, we have flexible options and solutions for you. If you are in a tough financial situation, we can help you with what those financial situations look like. And again, it goes down to the theme, I think, of our answers to our questions is communication. Work with us, we work with you, we'll make sure you're prepared. But from a technological standpoint, we have one of the most stable networks, you know, in the business. This last pandemic proved that, you know, stability was second to none. We had no major issues whatsoever. We were able to scale our service offering from our internet connectivity for up and downloads to help service what the customer's needs were. And that's the foundation, right? Anything that we weren't aware of that may come up, we're going to be prepared and we'll just layer on it. But we've already got those contingency plans ourselves. As we've been saying to you guys, prepare and back up. We have our own contingency plans in place, and some of them are what we just talked about.
Yeah, and we strongly believe people first. We actually, when we first heard about what was happening, we made sure that all of our representatives were not working out of our office. And that was back in March, right? And even more is we're listening to our people. If they don't feel comfortable working from the office, they don't have to come.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're making sure that people are coming on their own free will, and we're actually doing physical um, renovations in place to make sure that if they do decide to come, that it's a safe environment to work in.
What happened? Did we lose her?
What's become really apparent is during this pandemic is the need for thriving not-for-profit agencies because they're serving the community. And but many not-for-profit agencies, they just don't have the funds to enhance their technology to deliver that service to their clients. So what advice do you have for the not-for-profit sector, such as maybe you know, the food bank or housing organizations and so on and so forth?
I would say, you know, some organizations are doing it. I mean, I would say most organizations are doing a great job of it. It's just, I think exposure is a big thing. Um, we are actually working with a lot of nonprofit and charity organizations. We just started a community inclusion program last month where we're proactively reaching out to charity and nonprofit organizations to see what type of funding they need. But I think I personally know a colleague who works for neighborhood houses, and she was able to go on global and speak about what they need. I think it's very important for all the nonprofit organizations to reach out and use all these different platforms so that organizations like Shaw and other organizations will know that, you know, these charity does need funding, because if we don't know, then we can't donate, right? But the more that we know, the more that we can reach out to them.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is, take advantage of the industry that you're in. There are a lot of non-for-profit organizations out there. Pick up the phone and reach out to them and ask them what they themselves are doing. That's option one. Option two, reach out to us. I myself have dealt with a lot of non-for-profit organizations, catered solutions specifically to them. Their financial funding came from the federal government, so they were sponsored, and we were able to develop a large overall plan that involved their entire network solution, and we did it at a very, very low or successful low cost compared to what they thought they needed to spend. So really, I mean, my advice would be twofold: is one, reach out to your counterparts that are in the non-profit organization, but I would also say reach out to us. We are subject matter experts in those areas. Specifically, what advice? I don't think there's any one specific thing we could say, because without understanding what the non-for-profit organization focuses in on, I couldn't exactly give you a recommendation on somebody that deals with refugees coming into the country and how you would handle their first home placements and what products and services they need, because those ones probably need internet in combination with cellular connectivity to be able to find jobs in the beginning, right? Whereas if you have a food bank situation, these are people that are looking for potential sponsorships, events, collaboration, and that goes to Charles's point. We would need to better understand that, but both options are available. Funding is hard. We get it. We do have lots of programs on non-for-profit. Reach out to us. We're happy to get you in contact with the right people and see if there's some collaboration efforts that we can do together.
When it comes to local governments and the pandemic, or really any disaster, even an earthquake, and as you mentioned, communication is key. And you need to leverage technology in order to do that. Governments are going to, all levels of government are really strapped financially as a result of the pandemic. But I'm intrigued as to what your perspective is on advice around technology advancements for local governments, whether you're in a rural environment or urban environment.
Okay, I'll take a crack at this one. Well, I laugh because it's the government, the government's adaptability is probably better than anyone's. They're for an organization like SAW, it's about understanding what direction are they going in, what are they focused in, what are the initiatives that they're driving, and how can we complement them. We typically don't play in that space, so I don't have a great knowledge, if I'm being completely transparent, on the government agencies, but I've had some past experience that I could talk about. So when you talk about government, it's about understanding the regulatory laws, the governing rules that protect those organizations, that ideally protect the businesses, knowing what type of stuff that they're doing. So as an example, governments will say that, the doctor-client confidentiality is extremely important. Violation of that can result in millions of dollars of penalties. Well, we have a product that can help save, that can make sure that doesn't happen. So, those are the types of things that Shaw will look at what the government agency is doing and how they're doing it, and understand how can we complement that. At a much higher level, I'd probably have to reach out to somebody within the Shaw organization that runs the regulatory or the government side of the business. So again, I would just say, if you want to learn more about it on the government side, reach out to us and we can do that. But we do have some very specific things that we focus in on, as I just gave an example on. But the more higher level strategic stuff is done with this very specific division of people at Shaw that really know exactly how the provincial and federal government works. I, for one, don't have that level of experience.
Well, our government representative works very closely with the Surrey Board of Trade, Kirsten, yeah. She wasn't able to jump on this call today. However, if anyone has any questions about that, we can directly connect you to her. Yeah. That's strictly her field, and she's local to the area too. She's local to the BC area.
Well, Shaw is going to be an asset for the business community as an instrument of change. as we move through this pandemic and past the pandemic. And everyone is hoping that it's all going to be over and we're going to go back to normal. But it really is, ladies and gentlemen, an opportunity for innovation. And that means to get rid of old processes that did not work and to engage in new processes, new technology that will instigate bottom line productivity. So before we conclude, any final comments, Charles and Pascal?
I would say, thanks everyone for having us today. Shaw's, like locally, Shaw Business is Western Canada, but locally and now Eastern Canada. But locally, we wanted to make a very big impact on the local organizations. That's why we wanted to, like prior to this year, we wasn't really connected to the Board of Trades and Chamber of Commerce's and the nonprofits. But prior to this year, at the beginning of this year, we made a very big effort to be bold in the community. So we appreciate, the Surrey Board of Trade for having us. And, we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to be more connected with the community. The original goal was to come out and attend a lot of events this year, attend a lot of trade shows, come to a lot of meetings. But however, since the pandemic happened, we had to adapt and move. So now, the first thing we did was reach out to Surrey Board of Trade and see how we can, connect to the members via this conference. So we're very, happy that we're able to attend today, and we're looking forward to being more and strengthening our relationship going forward.
Yeah, and again, I echo everything Charles said. Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate the time. Final thoughts. There's always going to be challenges in business. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. If everybody could make money, everybody would be doing it. Take advantage of what you've learned today, but also the relationship that we have with the Surrey Board of Trade, with myself and Charles that are the subject matter experts in our field. Reach out to us, ask us any questions that you want. We're here to help and customize a strategy that best suits your business to help you to continue to be successful in the business. And thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the contact information for Charles and Pascal will be sent to you with a recorded link of this town hall. And remember, there's many town halls that we are engaging in to support your business. Check us out at www.businessinsurrey.com. Thank you so much to the Port of Vancouver and to Shaw for their sponsorship of today's session.